Okay, we have more news in the crime world. It's the word on the street, to quote Huggy Bear, which is definitely dating myself, but hey, that's the way it goes. We have our wonderful Karen Read, a little bias there, right? Yeah, the woman that was, the whole thing, the two trials, the amount of bullshit, unbelievable bullshit, which I cannot believe whatever took place, and the judge allowed all this bullshit to come through. And I'll probably do a whole video on the uh, sidebars, because the transcripts have come out of all the sidebars from court one, and there's stuff in those sidebars which should have had court case number one thrown out, on top of all the other things that should have had it thrown out, which they wouldn't do because it's, the state, basically, the police department, against Karen Read. But anyhow, back in the news, it's a civil war with her, Turtle Boy, and our wonderful, wonderful crew of these splendid people. The dude, years later, okay, we've had two trials in several years, he still looks as lost as he ever has. Complete doofus, has no idea. He's the one who refers to his neighbors as the Chinese people next door or whatever, Chinese people up the street. But then again, if I was married to that, I would probably be looking like doofus as well. World's worst wife in the world. I mean, she is horrible. She's Miss Karen. Ugh, never want to hear that again. I'm sorry I even did that. Also, she, a very, very bad liar on the stage. In trial, on testimony as a witness. And also, he's pretty lost as a witness, too. And every time he got in trouble, he said he couldn't read it, and so he was in dark. All kinds of crap with those guys, And this guy, the only thing he's really good at doing is making pizza, and apparently even then, mixed review on his pizza, but, he's all he wants to do is go back to making pizza and make money. And get Turtle Boy and everyone else to stop coming into his pizza place to harass him, that they want him to come in and buy pizzas. And the kid, who may or may not have been involved in this whole ordeal, who apparently was not there, was there, hurt his hand falling on the cement, knuckles and whatnot, versus not falling on the ground and hurting his hands on the cement. But anyhow, that's all case one stuff. He got total immunity or protection in case two, so he didn't even come up. Which, of course, brings us to the wonderful pair I have highlighted a little bit. We have, the boss, big man on the scene, Boston's finest up here, all the ways. The one that way from the second glowing dude. He's been on TV before as, some of the tough cops. He has a reputation of fighting with other cops, and he has a reputation with being a little rough with some of the people he's picked up, criminals. But anyhow, he is definitely the kingpin of this whole lot, this group of fine citizens. He's the kingpin. All of them do what he says. That's for sure. And even Huggy Bear here, all the way on the end, right there, the first one highlighted. He's lost a hell of a lot of weight. Look at that. Give him points for that. Look at it. It's half of them there. Good points for him. Hey, not easy to do. Congratulations on losing weight. Probably because he doesn't have the same assignment anymore. And he doesn't spend all day probably eating food and driving around drunk in vehicles that are owned by the police department, or in this case, he's ATF, so that's even worse. And then going up to the office he had at the police station, because they're buddies with the police chief, he got an office of his own, which we all know, that he would go to sleep off being drunk. isn't that nice to be an ATF officer and you can come walking into the police station drunk off your ass and go upstairs to your office and uh, crash out and be left alone because everyone knows you're in there getting over your bender, your Jamesons and Gingers. Anyhow, well, points to him for having lost weight. Mr. Oh, I disposed of my camera or my cell phone. Well, actually, I took the SIM card out, I cut it up, threw it in 2 different dumpsters on an Air Force base, then I lost my phone. All just before, this is case 1, but all just before the courts ordered them to keep all the property. You do not dispose of or erase cameras, equipment, etc., etc. Day before, all of them, within, that time, suddenly got new cell phones, new carriers, new cell phones, and, whatnot. Yeah, they're completely that's a complete, absolute coincidence, coinky-dink. Anyhow, that's all, case information and tons of it. But they're back in court. These guys are suing, Karen Read and Turtle Boy. Turtle Boy and Karen Read are suing these guys. I'm surprised they all showed up in court for the overview hearing. Just kind of like they're just setting up court dates and the administrative end of it, which they all didn't have to show up. But I'm quite sure if he said show up, they all show up. They all they showed up and showed up. But anyhow, here's your lineup. Now, 2 of them, and I don't know how I can do this without pointing them out too directly, but 2 of them I'm quite sure are very heavily involved in the cover-up and murder of John O'Keefe, who the police still have not bothered to open the case back up to find out who actually did it. Who might have actually done it. It's a good thing that, being worried about possible federal charges against maybe what you did or didn't do causes you to lose a lot of weight. But anyhow, Kingpin covering for what happened at Kingpin's house, in Kingpin's front yard, just under Kingpin's bedroom window. And they all know nothing about it. No idea how Officer John O'Keefe turned up dead in their front yard. And it's not a big yard. Not a big yard. But, the dog's missing. That's right. Their canine. Their German Shepherd who failed police training and had a record of biting other people. That dog, before the first court case, disappeared. Didn't disappear. The term was rehomed. He was rehomed. The family dog just decided to go live somewhere else. And so we, gave him a stick and his bag of bones and, sent him off to unknown locations, and they couldn't find out where he is anymore. Oh, then they said they found him. They know exactly where it was, but you can't verify that dog is still the same dog. And Mr. I've lived in this house all my life, and his father lived in that house all his life. They sold the house and moved because, the market. The market. The market. Anyhow, basically, one of these 2 are guilty as fuck. Actually, one of them's guilty as fuck. Actually, I strongly believe was the one who had the motive and the means and was drunk off his ass and was sounding like he was challenging. And if you look at the wonderful footage from Microdots of the enhanced footage of them leaving the bar that night, you can clearly see one of them doink, 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 pretty irate at John O'Keefe and challenging him on the phone to come hither. And of course, he had the hots for Karen. So, and something happened on Kingpin's property, in his house, on his lawn. Kingpin's doing everything he can to cover it up, and all the police are going with him, and all of their individual testimonies in both court cases, absolutely pathetic, reek of so much concentrated study and pre-fed answers. and how they all have wonderful timelines, except for when it comes to the critical time, and then suddenly it's, I can't remember, I can't remember, I can't remember, I can't remember. I was gone, I was there. I left at 12:50. I left at a quarter of. Well, anyhow. Hopefully, one day the feds will show up and have something to do with some of the people who I don't know how I can highlight them without coming right out and saying who I think really did it. Well, actually, it is my opinion. Allegedly, Iggy Bear did it. But, anyways, they're engaged in a battle. Plus, Karen Read's also suing the police department, which encourages them to countersue or to sue as well. And she's also suing probably, the city of Canton, which again, she should win, and Canton should be renamed Karen, which would really piss off these guys like you wouldn't believe. What doesn't matter? They all moved out anyhow, or were reassigned different jobs, or, still look as bad as ever, lost as ever, bitch as hell. And I just want to make pizzas. So, well, we'll see how it does. Thank you. Nothing big on it. Just wanted to point out that yes, they're back in courts again. It's actually happening now. Them, the Bobbsey twins, the people who couldn't shoot straight, didn't keep their story straight, and Miss Karen Read are once again duking it out in the courtrooms. Luckily, they do not have Judge Beverly looking over this one. I'll allow it. Oh, look, information. Evidence without documentation on where it came, when it was collected, who collected it. No chain of custody. Wouldn't be allowed in any other court in the world. Well, in any other court in the United States. I'll allow it. Along with everything else that came in without any documentation of when, where, how, who did collect it, who didn't collect it, who has his hand, who is written for having collected, who didn't collect it. Yet the evidence bag says he collected it. He says he never even touched it. And they're solo cups and shopping bags for collecting evidence. Oh, and the leaf blower. Don't forget about the leaf blower being used in the snow to help preserve evidence. That's a funny way of preserving evidence, by putting it to the wind. Anyhow, hopefully they might got some of this. If not, I'll be doing it again. So, behave yourselves. Sabos. Ciao. There's that button. It's somewhere over here. Adios. Bye.